Friends, if you're excited to watch the super entertaining and much-awaited movie DogMan 2025 in English, then you're absolutely in the right place. And hey, if this is your very first time visiting our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more exciting videos packed with the latest movie news, breakdowns, and deep dives. Today's video is going to be a full-on cinematic treat because we are talking about a film that's not just fun and imaginative, but also loaded with heart, adventure, and plenty of hilarious action. DogMan 2025 star. Yes, the beloved character from D.A.V. Pilkey's graphic novels has made his way to the big screen, and fans of all ages are buzzing with excitement. In this video, we're going to cover absolutely everything you need to know about this film. We'll start by talking about what DogMan is, how the story was adapted, what kind of tone the movie has, and how it manages to blend childlike charm with some surprisingly meaningful messages. You'll find out whether it leans more into slapstick comedy or emotional storytelling, and how closely it sticks to the original books. Whether you're a longtime fan of the graphic novels or just getting introduced to the character for the first time, this movie has something for everyone. Now, of course, one of the biggest questions fans always ask is, where can we watch it? Well, don't worry. I'll be giving you all the information on which OTT platform you'll be able to stream this movie on, or if it's getting a full theatrical release. You'll also find out which satellite channels might be broadcasting it later on, and when you can expect the digital release if you're waiting to watch from home. We'll also take a deep dive into the technical departments behind this film. From the vibrant animation style to the voice acting cast, and from the background score to the sound design, there's a lot of talent involved in bringing DogMan to life on screen. I'll tell you about the production process, how long it took to animate, the studios involved, and some interesting trivia about the pre-production phase. Was it easy to bring this half-dog, half-human hero to the big screen? You'll find out. We'll explore the post-production work as well, how the editors, sound engineers, and animators polish the final product to give it that signature cinematic shine. I'll also walk you through the budget of the film. Was it a modest animated project or a full-blown studio blockbuster? And, of course, we'll check out the box office performance. How well is it doing with audiences? Is it a hit with kids and adults alike? But that's not all. We're also going to break down the story of the film. I'll give you a spoiler-free overview of the plot, share what kind of adventure DogMan goes on this time, and what the main conflict is. There's action, comedy, and some touching moments too. I'll also give you a quick review of the storyline, highlighting what works well and what makes the movie stand out among other animated releases. Then we'll talk about the cast and characters, who's voicing who, which characters from the books make an appearance, and which actors brought those roles to life. How was their performance? Did they capture the energy and charm of the original characters? We'll cover all that. And finally, we'll discuss some extra fun facts and behind-the-scenes details that fans will love. Things you probably didn't know about how the film was made, Easter eggs hidden in the animation, and how this movie fits into the larger DogMan universe. So friends, I highly recommend that you watch this video till the very end because there's a lot of exciting stuff coming your way. Whether you're a fan of animation, comedy, superhero-style storytelling, or just great family entertainment, DogMan 2025 has something special in store. So let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into this pawsome adventure and see what makes DogMan one of the most talked-about films of the year. Let's begin. Plot and narrative, DogMan 2025. The story of DogMan 2025 unfolds with the same zany, hyperactive spirit that made the original graphic novels so beloved, but on the big screen, everything is cranked up to a whole new level. From the very first scene, the film plunges the audience into a wild world where logic takes a backseat and imagination leads the way. The film opens with a dramatic, exaggerated retelling of DogMan's origins, a chaotic sequence involving a police officer, his canine companion, an explosion, and an emergency surgical procedure that fuses the dog's head onto the officer's body. It's absurd. It's hilarious. It's brilliant. And most importantly, it sets the tone for a movie that knows exactly what it is. Outrageous fun with unexpected emotional depth. From there, the film takes off like a rocket. DogMan becomes the city's newest crime-fighting hero, but he doesn't exactly operate by the rules. He's impulsive, distractible, and wildly destructive, often causing more collateral damage than the criminals he's chasing. This kicks off the first wave of tension. Sure, the citizens love him, but the police chief? Not so much. While DogMan's heart is in the right place, his methods land him in hot water, leading to his suspension from the force. This isn't just played for laughs, though the humor is constant. It sets up one of the core emotional arcs of the story. DogMan begins to question his purpose. Is he a real hero, or just a walking disaster? Enter Petey the cat, the movie's primary antagonist and one of the most delightfully complicated characters in the film. Petey isn't your typical bad guy. He's brilliant, cynical, and weirdly philosophical. He views the world as broken and unfair, and he's made it his mission to cause as much mischief as possible, partly out of bitterness, partly out of boredom. But Petey has a secret. He's created a clone, Lil Petey, who's the complete opposite of him. Kind, cheerful, and hopeful. This father-son dynamic becomes the emotional heart of the film. As Petey struggles with his instinct to remain a villain, Lil Petey begins to see the good in him, and through his interactions with DogMan, starts to believe that even the worst cat in the world might be capable of change. The story really takes off here, splitting its focus between DogMan's attempt to find a new purpose outside of the police force, Petey's growing internal conflict about being a villain, and Lil Petey's desire to bring his two father figures, DogMan and Petey, together. What makes the narrative engaging is how it jumps between madcap action and surprisingly thoughtful emotional beats. 1 minute, you're watching DogMan chase squirrels or get distracted by squeaky toys mid-battle. The next, you're watching Lil Petey quietly confront his father about why he pushes people away. The film never stops being fun, but it doesn't shy away from deeper moments either. There's a beautifully executed subplot involving DogMan joining a group of misfit heroes, other animals and humans who've been pushed aside or labeled as failures. This group helps DogMan find his self-worth again and reminds him that being different doesn't make you less of a hero. These moments of growth are sprinkled in between frantic chase scenes, explosions, and scenes that feel like they were pulled straight out of a child's wildest dreams, complete with fourth-wall-breaking jokes and animated sequences that mimic comic book panels. The film builds toward a thrilling, over-the-top climax where Petey unleashes his most chaotic invention yet, a massive mechanical menace designed to wipe out the city and reset the broken system he hates so much. DogMan, now more confident and grounded thanks to his journey, rallies the other misfits to help stop the machine. But in a twist that elevates the story beyond typical good versus evil, it's not brute strength or clever gadgets that save the day, it's empathy. In the final confrontation, Lil Petey steps between DogMan and his father, pleading with Petey to see the value in kindness, connection, and second chances. This moment becomes the emotional turning point. Petey's armor of sarcasm and cynicism cracks just enough for him to realize he doesn't want to lose the one person who truly believes in him. He deactivates the machine himself, not because he's defeated, but because he finally chooses a different path. It's not a dramatic redemption arc with tears and swelling music. It's quiet, sincere, and very real. By the end, DogMan is reinstated, not because he conforms to the system, but because the system realizes it needs someone like him, unorthodox, wild, but deeply compassionate. Petey doesn't become a hero overnight, but he begins to soften, and Lil Petey continues to be the glue that holds this strange little family together. What makes DogMan 2025 so special from a narrative perspective is its ability to layer genuine themes, belonging, self-worth, redemption, chosen family, into a story that's constantly making you laugh. The movie doesn't rely on a single tone. It bounces between perspectives, experiments with comic-style visuals, and uses exaggerated pacing to reflect the unpredictable energy of its characters. While the structure is mostly linear, the film feels like a series of comic book issues stitched together with visual transitions and self-aware humor that playfully acknowledges how ridiculous the world really is. There's a rhythm to the chaos, a heart behind every joke, and a clear respect for the intelligence of the audience, especially kids. It's the kind of storytelling that invites viewers to laugh first, then reflect later. And that's exactly why the narrative sticks. Whether you're here for the silliness or the emotion, DogMan 2025 makes sure you leave feeling like you've just watched something truly original, unpredictable, and surprisingly meaningful. Character development in DogMan 2025 is not just a bonus, it's the foundation that holds the entire whirlwind of visual gags, action set pieces, and comic chaos together. At first glance, it might seem like all goofy fun. But behind the flying fur, wagging tails, and villainous meows, this is a story deeply invested in emotional arcs, personal growth, and complex relationships. Every major character, no matter how exaggerated or cartoonish, is on a journey. And those journeys are filled with self-doubt, learning, failure, empathy, and a surprising amount of soul-searching. Let's start with DogMan, the unlikely hero. From the outside, he's a lovable oddball. He barks during important conversations, chases balls mid-battle, drools uncontrollably, and solves problems in the most unorthodox ways imaginable. But beneath that floppy-eared goofiness is a character battling with insecurity and rejection. DogMan wants to be seen as capable and respected. He wants to do good. He's deeply loyal and full of heart, but constantly misunderstood because of his instincts and behavior. His biggest enemy isn't a supervillain. It's not feeling like he fits in. The police force sees him as a nuisance. Criminals see him as a joke. And at his lowest point, he even doubts himself. His character arc is about self-acceptance, about realizing that heroism doesn't mean perfection or conformity. It means showing up, being brave in your own way, and using what makes you different as your strength. He doesn't change who he is, he grows into who he already was. Then there's Petey the cat, who might be one of the most emotionally layered villains ever to appear in a children's animated movie. Petey is the character who wears sarcasm like armor. He mocks everything, trusts no one, and pushes away even those who try to help him. But the film lets us see the cracks in his mask. We learn that Petey's cynicism isn't just theatrical, it's rooted in loneliness and regret. He doesn't believe the world is fair, and he doesn't think people really change. His past, never laid out in full detail, but hinted at with visual cues and dialogue, suggests abandonment, betrayal, and disappointment. So when he's presented with Lil Petey, his clone child, full of hope and trust, he has no idea how to respond. His arc is about resistance, about a character who doesn't want to be redeemed because he doesn't think he deserves it. And that internal struggle is so compelling because the movie doesn't force him to change. It gives him space to consider it. And that's a much more honest depiction of growth. When Petey finally begins to soften, even just slightly, it feels earned because we've seen every moment of pushback and pain that led him there. Now Lil Petey. On paper, he's the cutest character in the film. Small, optimistic, bursting with positivity. But in the hands of this film's writers, he becomes much more than comic relief or emotional cheerleader. Lil Petey is the heart of the film, the character who believes so fiercely in others that it challenges them to grow. He's the one who sees good in Petey when no one else does. The one who defends DogMan when others roll their eyes. But he's not naive. His arc involves facing disappointment, understanding that people can't be fixed overnight, and learning how to be patient. One of the most touching things about Lil Petey is how he deals with rejection. Petey pushes him away time and again, but Lil Petey keeps showing up, not with anger or guilt-tripping, but with quiet persistence and love. Watching him mature, seeing how he navigates two wildly different father figures and still holds onto his compassion, that's where his true strength lies. What makes these character arcs work so well is how they intersect. DogMan, Petey, and Lil Petey are not just on individual journeys, they're shaping each other. DogMan, for all his courage, is still emotionally immature. He needs Lil Petey's guidance to connect with his deeper self. Petey, cold and closed off, is slowly cracked open by Lil Petey's belief in him. And Lil Petey, while wise beyond his years, is still a child navigating impossible emotional terrain. Their bond isn't clean or tidy. There are setbacks, miscommunications, and moments of real hurt. But it grows, scene by scene, into something beautifully sincere. Even the side characters contribute to the movie's emotional richness. The chief, for instance, starts as the voice of rigid authority, barking orders and demanding results. He views DogMan as a walking mistake, a PR disaster in uniform. But as the story unfolds and he watches DogMan risk everything again and again for people who don't believe in him, even the chief begins to rethink what makes a real cop. His change of heart isn't dramatic. It's subtle, signaled in body language, tone, and small gestures. But it matters. Then there are the other misfit heroes that DogMan meets during his fall from grace. Each one represents a piece of the puzzle. The inventor who talks too fast and is constantly dismissed, the ex-villain trying to live a clean life but haunted by mistakes, the quiet artist who communicates only through drawings. They are background characters, yes, but each one reflects a part of DogMan's own struggle. By finding community with them, DogMan learns that being an outsider isn't something to hide, it's something to celebrate. Even the city itself acts as a character of sorts. It's noisy, impatient, full of people who jump to conclusions. But it also learns. It grows. It cheers when DogMan returns. It listens when Lil Petey speaks. It forgives when Petey hesitates. The environment adapts alongside the characters, showing how individual growth ripples outward. What makes the character development in DogMan 2025 stand out is that it doesn't sacrifice emotion for laughs, or laughs for emotion. It blends both. A character can trip over his own tongue, land in a pie, and still deliver a line that cuts to the core. Growth comes through absurdity, but it's real. These aren't characters who learn through lectures. They learn by trying, failing, loving, losing, and trying again. That's what makes them feel human, even when they're part dog, part cat, or part comic book chaos. The film respects its audience enough to let the characters be complicated, messy, contradictory, and that's what makes them unforgettable. The voice performances in DogMan 2025 are nothing short of electric. Every actor seems to understand that this isn't just another animated film, it's a full-throttle comic book come to life, where characters bounce between slapstick chaos and real emotional moments in the blink of an eye. That tone requires a special kind of voice acting, expressive, exaggerated when needed, but always grounded in truth. And the cast absolutely nails it. Let's start with the actor voicing DogMan. It's a challenging role because DogMan doesn't talk in the traditional sense. He barks, pants, whines, and expresses himself with growls, yelps, and the occasional excited howl. So the voice actor has to build an entire emotional vocabulary using only these sounds. And somehow, every bark feels meaningful. There's a moment where DogMan whines softly after being kicked off the force, and it lands like a gut punch, pure vulnerability, without a single word. But then, in the next scene, he's leaping into action with heroic barks and tail-wagging determination. The actor gives DogMan range, making him lovable and expressive without traditional dialogue. It's physical voice work at its best, animated emotion through breath, tone, and timing. Then there's the voice of Petey the cat. Here's where things really get juicy. Petey's actor delivers a performance that is equal parts theatrical, bitter, hilarious, and unexpectedly emotional. Every line drips with sarcasm or exasperation, and yet, the actor knows exactly when to pull back. In scenes with Lil Petey, there's a subtle shift in his voice, a hesitation, a quiet catch, a softer edge that says more than the actual words. You hear a character trying not to care and failing. There's one scene where Petey laughs at Lil Petey's optimism, but his voice cracks ever so slightly, and in that moment, the entire room goes silent. That's what a great performance does. It creates layers within a single line delivery. He's still the villain, but he's no longer just the punchline. Lil Petey's voice actor brings an absolutely infectious charm to the film. Every line is delivered with high energy and emotional clarity. But what stands out is the sincerity. This isn't just a kid character designed for cuteness. The actor infuses him with hope, curiosity, and real emotional stakes. Whether he's giggling at DogMan's antics or pleading with his father to open up, the voice behind Lil Petey never wavers. He brings the warmth and emotional bridge that the film's entire heart depends on. He sounds like someone who's seen both pain and possibility and chooses love every time. That kind of performance doesn't just enhance the story. It anchors it. The supporting cast brings just as much flavor to the mix. The actor playing the chief is gruff and old school, barking orders and grumbling about protocol, but he still finds moments to show growth and tenderness. There's a particular scene where the chief finally acknowledges DogMan's value, and the delivery is perfect, not sentimental, but deeply earned. Sarah Hatoff's voice adds intelligence and cool confidence, playing the clever news reporter who often cuts through the madness with sharp observations. Her tone never oversells the jokes, but always lands with impact. Even the minor characters, background cops, fellow misfits, mechanical hench creatures, are voiced with flair. You can tell every actor was encouraged to have fun, to push the boundaries of personality, and to make their characters memorable no matter how small the part. Some voices squeak, some boom, some squeal with villainous delight, but they all serve the tone of the film. Nothing feels phoned in. The cast creates a sonic landscape that feels as vivid and layered as the animation itself. What really elevates the performances is how well the cast understands rhythm. This film moves fast. It cuts between comedy and drama in seconds. And the voice actors keep up. They shift tones seamlessly, delivering punchlines with perfect comedic timing, then immediately grounding a scene with emotion. There's real chemistry in the vocal performances, especially between the main trio. DogMan's expressive noises, Lil Petey's heartfelt words, and Petey's cynical snark all bounce off each other with the energy of a tightly choreographed dance. You feel the tension. You feel the love. And above all, you believe these characters know each other deeply. In the hands of a lesser cast, this movie could have been just loud and silly. But these performers bring layers. They commit to the absurdity, then turn around and hit you with genuine feeling. It's that balance that makes the performances in DogMan 2025 not just good, but unforgettable. Every voice is a character. Every line matters. And every emotion, whether it's shouted, whispered, or barked, lands exactly where it needs to. The direction in DogMan 2025 is bold, playful, and absolutely fearless. From the first frame, it's clear that the director isn't just adapting a comic book, they're diving headfirst into its chaotic world and inviting the audience to come along for the ride. This isn't a film that plays it safe or follows a typical animated blueprint. It's a wild, experimental, hyper-stylized burst of creativity, and it works because the director commits to the madness with absolute confidence. Tone is everything in a movie like this, and the director balances it like a circus act. At any given moment, the film could veer into slapstick comedy, heartfelt emotion, chaotic action, or surreal visual gags, and somehow, it never feels jarring. That's because the tone is carefully controlled. The director understands that the heart of DogMan is its emotional core, even when the visuals are bouncing off the walls. So every time the story threatens to tip too far into silliness or sentimentality, the direction reins it back in, refocusing on character and rhythm. It's like watching a jazz musician conduct a symphony with cartoons instead of instruments. Visually, the director leans heavily into comic book aesthetics, but not in the obvious, surface-level way. Yes, there are panels and bold text and exaggerated animation, but the real style is in how the shots are composed. Scenes transition like flipping through pages, fast, energetic, and deliberate. Action sequences are framed like splash pages, with exaggerated angles, skewed perspectives, and layered motion that feels ripped straight from the source material. The director doesn't want realism. They want visual velocity. Even quieter scenes are given a touch of flair, often through background gags or subtle visual metaphors that keep the film tonally unified. One of the most unique stylistic choices is the use of perspective. There are moments where the film shifts into first person, letting us see through DogMan's eyes, complete with blurry distractions like flying tennis balls or flapping birds that pull his attention mid-conversation. These moments are hilarious, yes, but they also serve a purpose. They immerse the viewer in DogMan's world, showing how his instincts shape his experience. It's a risky choice, but under the director's guidance, it becomes one of the film's most charming storytelling tools. The pacing is relentless, but never overwhelming. That's a difficult needle to thread. The director clearly understands the target audience's attention span, especially kids, and structures the film accordingly. Scenes rarely linger longer than they need to. Comedy lands quickly. Dialogue is snappy. Action moves fast, but it's not chaotic for chaos' sake. Everything has rhythm. The faster scenes are counterbalanced with slower, quieter moments of reflection, usually centered around DogMan's internal journey or Lil Petey's emotional pleas. These pauses give the story breathing room, allowing the audience to feel alongside the characters instead of just watching them zoom around. What's also impressive is how the director brings emotional clarity to an inherently silly world. Characters like Petey, who could easily be one-dimensional villains, are given space to breathe and grow. That comes down to staging. In moments of vulnerability, the director pulls back, letting the camera linger, letting silence settle, letting the characters sit in their discomfort. It's not flashy, but it's effective. These small moments hit harder because they contrast so sharply with the film's usual kinetic energy. There's also an incredible amount of visual storytelling happening at all times. Backgrounds are rich with Easter eggs, running jokes, and minor characters doing their own thing. The director encourages exploration, making the screen feel alive in every corner. That density doesn't clutter the story, it adds texture. Kids can rewatch scenes and find something new every time, while adults will appreciate the layers of visual wit and cinematic detail baked into even the simplest transition. The world building is another testament to the director's vision. The city feels cartoonish but lived in, exaggerated but consistent. It's a place where robot butlers, talking fish, and villainous vacuum cleaners all make perfect sense. That's not an accident. The director crafts a tone where absurdity is the norm, and once the audience buys in, anything becomes possible. Yet, even in this kaleidoscope of nonsense, emotional stakes are never lost. That's a directorial triumph, creating a universe that's ridiculous on the outside but sincere at its core. Even the musical cues and editing style reflect the director's fingerprints. Scenes often shift tempo based on the emotional stakes, with music that syncs perfectly to character expressions or comedic beats. There are moments of deliberate silence, too, where the absence of score enhances the awkwardness or tension. These choices don't feel random. They feel intentional, part of a larger vision where sound, pacing, and visuals are in complete harmony. Ultimately, the director of DogMan, 2025, doesn't just guide the film. They engineer the chaos. Every gag, every emotional turn, every camera move is calibrated to serve both the tone and the character arcs. It's a film that could have easily spun out of control. But instead, it becomes a masterclass in controlled mayhem. The direction gives the audience permission to laugh, to feel, and to believe in a world where a dog-headed cop can be both the clumsiest officer on the force and the most heroic figure in the city. And that delicate balance, that tightrope walk between ridiculous and real, is what makes the direction so exhilarating to watch. The cinematography in DogMan, 2025, is like strapping into a roller coaster built inside a comic book, wild, vibrant, fast-moving, and surprisingly precise. While the film is animated, it doesn't rely on traditional animation framing. Instead, the cinematography borrows from live-action playbooks and comic panel logic to create something entirely its own. It's a unique blend of dynamic movement, expressive angles, and visual chaos that's carefully orchestrated to serve the storytelling at every moment. Right from the opening scene, the camera work sets the tone with a mix of extreme zooms, whip pans, and punch-ins that feel like they're lifted straight from comic pages coming alive. The angles are often exaggerated, low angles that make villains loom like titans, high angles that make DogMan look comically small in a courtroom full of skeptical humans, or tilted frames during chase sequences that crank up the energy and disorientation. These aren't just flashy tricks. They reflect how the characters see the world. DogMan's perspective is often playful and impulsive, so the cinematography mirrors that with quick cuts, off-center framing, and a constantly shifting point of view that feels almost instinctual, like a dog following a scent. Lighting in DogMan is used more like a narrative paintbrush than a realistic element. Scenes are soaked in bright, punchy colors during moments of fun and action, neon greens, bold reds, electric blues. But when the story slows down or dives into a more emotional beat, the lighting subtly shifts. Shadows stretch, backgrounds fade, and color palettes cool down to soft purples or dusky grays. One scene between Petey and Lil Petey, for example, is lit with moody twilight hues, deep oranges and shadows stretching across the floor, framing the tension between them not just through dialogue, but through light itself. It's not just about seeing the characters, it's about feeling their emotional state through the glow around them. Framing choices are some of the most expressive elements in the film. DogMan is frequently framed in wide shots that emphasize the chaos he leaves in his wake, debris scattered behind him, confused bystanders in the corners of the frame, visual gags layered in every direction. But in his quieter, more vulnerable moments, the camera closes in. We get tight, still frames that hold on his face, not for realism, but to invite empathy. His floppy ears droop, his eyes well up, and suddenly the absurdity falls away. The framing brings the audience into that moment with him, no dialogue needed. On the other hand, Petey is often framed in isolation, alone in vast, sterile labs or positioned at the edge of the screen to visually reinforce his detachment. When he's framed alongside Lil Petey, the tension is reflected in the distance between them. The cinematography gives you emotional cues before anyone even speaks. The action scenes are where the cinematography goes completely off the leash. The camera doesn't just follow the action, it is the action. It spins, flips, dips through explosions, zips around corners, and locks onto DogMan in POV-style sequences that mimic the chaotic instincts of an actual dog. There are moments where the cinematography deliberately blurs the background and focuses in on a bouncing tennis ball or flying frisbee mid-fight, showing just how easily DogMan can lose track of what's important. But even in that chaos, it's controlled. The audience never feels lost because the camera always lands exactly where it needs to be, anchoring you with key visual details, a smirking villain in the corner, a triggered booby trap, a falling sidekick that DogMan has to catch at the last second. One of the most visually striking moments in the film comes during a dream sequence. The entire look of the film shifts into sketchbook-style animation, with rough lines, minimal color, and fluid, drifting camera movement. It's a moment where DogMan imagines what a perfect hero looks like, tall, poised, graceful, and he clearly doesn't see himself in that image. The camera floats around this dream like it's underwater, distant and idealized, contrasting sharply with the jagged, grounded reality DogMan wakes up to. It's not just visually gorgeous, it's emotionally loaded, told entirely through movement and contrast and style. The city itself becomes part of the cinematographic storytelling. It's a pulsing, living backdrop filled with exaggerated architecture, twisting alleys, looming towers, and crooked skylines. The camera glides through these environments with a sense of discovery. It pushes through sewer tunnels during villain hideouts, shoots upward through skyscrapers during heroic climbs, and slows to a crawl in quiet parks where the characters wrestle with their emotions. These shifts in pace and shot scale create atmosphere. Action gets your adrenaline pumping, while stillness gives you room to breathe. Even comedy is shaped by camera movement and timing. A sudden crash zoom onto a character's shocked face. A slow pan revealing an unexpected gag in the background. A tracking shot that builds tension only to reveal a silly payoff. These visual jokes land just as effectively as dialogue-based ones because the cinematography understands rhythm and surprise. Ultimately, the cinematography in DogMan 2025 serves not just to illustrate the story, but to energize it. It tells you what the characters feel before they say it. It guides your attention through layered scenes of comic insanity, and it injects every moment with visual personality. Whether it's making you laugh, sit in silence, or grip your seat during a chase, the camera is always doing more than just showing. It's participating, reacting, and amplifying. It makes the world of DogMan feel immersive, expressive, and wildly alive. The editing in DogMan 2025 is a rhythmic dance between chaos and control, with pacing that mimics the unpredictable energy of its floppy-eared hero. It's fast, funny, punchy, and perfectly tuned to the film's cartoonish tone, but beneath the surface is a surprisingly thoughtful structure that keeps the emotional moments from getting lost in the whirlwind. Every scene feels deliberate, every transition has a purpose, and the flow of the film keeps audiences locked in from start to finish without ever feeling disoriented or worn out. From the opening sequence, the film hits the gas with a burst of energy. Quick cuts, overlapping dialogue, and comic-style smash zooms throw you straight into the mayhem of DogMan's world. The editing leans into visual comedy hard. You'll often get a sequence of rapid reaction shots, a villain's glare, DogMan's confused blink, a sidekick's gasp, all stitched together in half-second flashes that land like comedic drumbeats. These moments are fast, snappy, and keep the laughs coming without lingering too long on any one gag. But this isn't just about chaos for the sake of chaos. The editors clearly know when to slow things down. Emotional beats are given time to breathe. When DogMan is reflecting alone, or when Petey has a heartfelt moment with Lil Petey, the pace downshifts. Scenes are allowed to stretch, and cuts are timed to match the characters' silences or pauses in speech, creating emotional weight through patience. Instead of overwhelming the audience with constant momentum, the film uses these quieter segments to recalibrate. And that balance makes the highs feel higher and the heartfelt moments hit harder. Transitions are handled with style and flair. You'll see scene changes that mimic the turning of a comic book page, abrupt jump cuts for comedic effect, and crossfades drenched in moody lighting for more reflective sequences. One particularly clever touch is the use of panel wipes, where the next shot slides in from the side of the screen like a comic panel being revealed. It keeps the visuals playful while also serving as a cue that a new moment or perspective is about to start. In action scenes, the editors use rhythmic cutting, matching beats of the score to punches, jumps, and explosions, giving each fight a musical, choreographed feel without losing clarity. Chase scenes in particular are masterclasses in kinetic editing. The film knows exactly how long to stay with a shot before cutting. When DogMan is racing through a hallway or dodging traps, the cuts are quick but coherent, keeping the geography of the space intact. You always know where he is and what's at stake, no matter how wild the action gets. But just as you think the scene's momentum might peak, the film throws in a comedic detour, like DogMan stopping mid-chase to chase his own tail, then snaps right back into gear. The editing makes these tonal shifts feel fluid rather than jarring, which is no easy feat. Pacing-wise, the film never overstays its welcome. Even the exposition-heavy moments are delivered with style, split-screen flashbacks, in-world monitors, or background characters chiming in with visual cues. There are no drawn-out info dumps, just bite-sized nuggets of story sprinkled throughout in fun and unexpected ways. The second act, which often drags in many films, keeps momentum by bouncing between subplots at just the right moments. Just when one thread begins to plateau, the film cuts to a different character with a new objective or conflict, keeping audience interest high. Montage sequences are another standout. Whether it's a training scene, a gadget-building sequence, or DogMan trying and failing to follow basic police procedure, these moments are trimmed for maximum effect. They fly by with quick, clever edits, visual gags layered over each other, music synced to every frame, and subtle callbacks planted in blink-can-you'll-miss-it frames. These montages don't just push the story forward. They add texture to the world and deepen character quirks without needing long explanations. And then there are the moments when the film intentionally messes with pacing for comedic effect. A sudden slow-motion shot of DogMan dramatically leaping through the air to stop a villain, only to miss and crash into a wall, is followed by a hard cut to silence. These abrupt shifts from bombastic action to deadpan stillness catch the audience off guard in the best way, using editing as a punchline. timing is everything, and the editors clearly have a great sense of comic rhythm. The climax is tightly edited to keep every character's thread active and meaningful. The film jumps between multiple locations and character arcs in rapid succession, but it never feels confusing. Each cut brings a new piece of tension or resolution, and by the end, the threads converge seamlessly in a final showdown that feels earned. Nothing gets lost in the shuffle. Even the end credits are handled creatively. Rather than rolling text over a blank screen, the editors treat the credits like another scene, cutting between character epilogues, mini-gags, and hand-drawn animations that extend the comic book feel. It's not just a wrap-up, it's a reward for sticking around, and it reflects the film's refusal to waste a single frame. Overall, the editing and pacing in DogMan 2025 create a rhythm that feels alive. It knows when to sprint, when to stroll, when to hit you with a joke, and when to pause for a moment of sincerity. The result is a movie that never loses momentum, never drags, and never forgets to surprise you. It's a masterclass in making chaos feel controlled and making control feel full of energy. The soundtrack and score of DogMan 2025 are more than just background noise. They're part of the story's lifeblood, pulsing with energy, emotion, and character. From the moment the first frame hits the screen, the music grabs your attention like a siren call for mischief. It's whimsical, dynamic, and fully committed to capturing the spirit of a world where cops have dog heads, villains build machines with banana peels, and justice is dished out with a tail wag. The score dances between genres with the same fearless abandon as DogMan himself. At one moment, you're grooving to a funky guitar riff as the hero leaps into action, and the next, you're floating in a gentle piano melody as two characters share a rare, quiet moment. What's so exciting is how the score never sticks to one predictable tone. It's constantly evolving with the story. There's a bouncy heroic theme that plays whenever DogMan tries to be serious and inevitably fails in a hilarious way, and it's built on playful brass and plucky strings, making it impossible not to smile when it kicks in. That theme becomes a recurring motif, shifting its arrangement depending on the situation. During a clumsy training montage, it's played on a toy piano. In the film's big finale, it bursts into full orchestral glory, horns blaring, percussion crashing, and everything firing on all cylinders to make DogMan feel like the underdog superhero he is. The score also knows how to guide emotional beats. When Lil Petey struggles with loyalty, or when Petey the cat shows a flicker of inner conflict, the music backs away from the cartoon energy and slides into something softer, more intimate. The strings become more subtle, sometimes even dropping out altogether to let silence fill the space. That silence is powerful. It makes you lean in. It makes the moment matter. And then, with one well-timed musical swell, the emotions come rushing back in. It's not manipulative or melodramatic. It's earned. There are several standout compositions, and not just in the traditional sense. One chase sequence is set to a wild mix of surf rock and techno beats, a blend so bizarre it shouldn't work, but it absolutely does. It mirrors the chaos on screen and somehow adds clarity to the action. Another sequence, where a villain reveals his master plan, is underpinned by an ominous, slow-building track that layers distorted electronic pulses over a creeping cello line, giving the scene weight without ever losing that slightly tongue-in-cheek vibe the movie thrives on. And then there's the use of diegetic music, songs that exist within the world of the film itself. Whether it's a villain playing classical music over a loudspeaker to gloat or a background radio tune that sets up a joke, these musical elements are woven into the scenes with purpose. A hilarious example is a standoff that's interrupted when DogMan's ringtone, an off-key version of his theme, goes off mid-sneak. The timing is flawless, the cue perfectly matched, and it turns a tense moment into a laugh-out-loud gag without breaking immersion. In terms of style, the film isn't afraid to jump between sounds. One minute, it's channeling Saturday morning cartoon energy with bongos and xylophones, and the next, it's hitting you with full cinematic grandeur. But the transitions are so smooth, so instinctively timed to the beats of the story, that you never feel whiplashed. Instead, it feels like the movie is breathing with the music, and the music is breathing with the characters. Even the credits get their own musical identity. Instead of fading into a generic score, the film closes with an original track that fuses the movie's central theme with a vocal performance that captures the mood of triumph and fun. It feels celebratory, like a victory lap for everyone who stuck around. And scattered throughout the credits are musical callbacks to earlier moments, a slowed-down version of the villain's theme played as a lullaby, a fast-paced remix of the training montage beat, and even a brief reprise of a silly jingle from the middle of the film. These are small details, but they give the score a sense of continuity and personality. Ultimately, the DogMan 2025 score isn't just a soundtrack, it's a storyteller. It lifts the emotions higher, punches up the jokes, deepens the dramatic moments, and gives the entire movie a pulse you can feel. The balance of noise and silence, of bombast and restraint, of comedy and sincerity, it's all handled with an instinctual precision. The music doesn't overpower the movie, but it's never passive either. It's a collaborator, a co-creator, and a key part of what makes the experience so rich, so fun, and so unforgettable. Beneath the wild action, wacky humor, and slapstick chaos of DogMan 2025 lies a surprisingly rich tapestry of themes that hit harder than you'd expect from a movie that features a dog-headed cop and a crime-fighting kitten. This film doesn't just chase villains. It chases questions about identity, redemption, friendship, authority, and the balance between order and creativity. At its core, DogMan is all about embracing imperfection. From the very start, DogMan himself is a walking contradiction, a police officer with the mind of a dog. He's clumsy, he doesn't follow rules in the traditional sense, and he's often more instinct-driven than rational. And yet, he gets results. This sets up the first major theme. Sometimes what society sees as a weakness is actually a strength in disguise. DogMan is proof that doing things your own way, trusting your gut, leading with heart instead of logic, can still make a difference. The film constantly reinforces that being different isn't a flaw, it's a superpower. This idea is mirrored in characters like Lil Petey, who combines youthful innocence with mad genius energy. He doesn't fit into the usual mold, but his ability to think creatively, to see things from a child's point of view, ends up being one of the group's biggest assets. Then there's the powerful theme of redemption, mostly explored through Petey the cat. Formerly a villain, Petey's arc in this movie isn't just comic relief, it's genuinely emotional. You see a character torn between his old life of crime and his newfound desire to be a better father. The film doesn't present redemption as a simple switch. It's messy, it's gradual, and it involves setbacks. But that's the beauty of it. Petey's journey explores how people aren't fixed in their roles. Just because you've been labeled the bad guy doesn't mean you're doomed to stay that way. It's a message that quietly but clearly encourages forgiveness, self-reflection, and second chances. The movie also plays with the idea of authority and rebellion. DogMan is part of the system, technically, but he constantly breaks rules in pursuit of real justice. Meanwhile, the villains often represent rigid control or soulless structure, giant robots, bureaucracy-loving baddies, or schemes based on domination rather than imagination. This sets up a clash between order and creativity. The film doesn't come down hard on either side, though. Instead, it celebrates balance. Rules are good, but they shouldn't kill creativity. Structure helps, but only when paired with empathy and flexibility. It's a message that feels especially relevant in a world where both kids and adults are often boxed into systems that don't always allow for originality or emotion. Another recurring theme is the power of friendship and found family. DogMan isn't a lone hero. He's surrounded by a patchwork team of misfits. Together, they make each other stronger. Whether it's Lil Petey's optimism, Sarah Hatoff's determination, or ADHD's helpful gadgets, each member of the team contributes something unique. The film reminds us that no one can do everything alone. True strength comes from collaboration, trust, and letting others into your world. It's a simple idea, but it's delivered with so much warmth and sincerity that it really lands. The relationships feel earned, the support systems feel genuine, and the message that you don't need to be perfect to belong is one that sticks with you. And finally, the film dips into a theme that's rare in such zany comedies: emotional honesty. Characters are encouraged to talk about their feelings, whether that's fear, regret, excitement, or love. It doesn't slow the movie down. Instead, it enriches the experience. There are several scenes where action pauses just long enough for a character to express doubt or offer encouragement. These aren't heavy-handed speeches. They're small, honest moments that show even the most cartoonish characters have inner lives worth exploring. What makes all these themes work is that they're woven naturally into the storytelling. They don't feel like forced lessons or preachy detours. They emerge from the characters' choices, the situations they face, and the relationships they build. DogMan never forgets that it's a comedy action film at heart, but it also understands that heart isn't just optional. It's essential. So while the explosions, gags, and high fives will keep you laughing, it's these deeper ideas of embracing who you are, growing beyond who you were, and finding strength in others that give DogMan 2025 its lasting bite. It's not just a movie that entertains. It's a movie that sticks with you long after the credits roll. From the very first frame, DogMan 2025 announces itself as a wild, visually vibrant world where cartoon absurdity and cinematic polish collide. The visual effects and CGI are a huge part of what gives this film its uniquely chaotic and lovable charm. But this isn't just a case of flashy animations for the sake of spectacle. Every visual effect feels handpicked to deepen the personality of the movie's world and characters. It's like stepping into a comic book that's come to life, only with more depth, more texture, and a whole lot more movement. The CGI here isn't interested in realism. Instead, it leans into stylization: bright, bold, exaggerated, and proudly cartoonish. DogMan's movements, for example, are animated in a way that captures both the awkwardness of a man-dog hybrid and the goofy loyalty of a real pup. His ears twitch, his tail wags at the most inappropriate times, and his reactions are often larger than life. None of this feels out of place because the world he inhabits is just as exaggerated. Buildings bend slightly during impact. Villains arrive with over-the-top effects like glowing eyes or vapor trails, and explosions look more like fireworks than destruction, all by design. It keeps the tone playful and allows for ridiculous physics to make complete emotional sense. The cityscapes are digitally crafted with comic book color palettes, vibrant skies, glowing neon, and textures that feel like they're inked onto the screen. There's a subtle paper grain filter over certain wide shots that gives everything a graphic novel vibe without becoming distracting. These aren't just backgrounds, they're mood boards that pulse with energy, shifting color depending on the tone of the scene. During tense moments, the shadows deepen and the palette gets cooler. During action, everything pops with dynamic reds and oranges. It's a feast for the eyes, and it all feels meticulously choreographed. One of the highlights of the film's visual approach is how it blends digital effects with practical ones, or at least, effects that feel tangible even when they're entirely CGI. The robot characters, especially ADHD, look like they've been plucked from a stop-motion workshop rather than rendered in a sleek effects studio. Their animations have deliberate weight and texture, making them feel grounded despite their absurd designs. Sparks fly, gears grind, and every servo twitch is animated with personality. This makes scenes involving tech or gadgets feel tactile and believable even in a cartoon reality. Action sequences are where the CGI truly gets unleashed. There are chase scenes through futuristic alleys, slow-motion jump kicks, bubble-powered jetpacks, and entire buildings flipping over like pages of a book. It's bonkers in the best possible way. The animators clearly had fun pushing the limits of what the DogMan universe could handle, because in this world, logic takes a backseat to spectacle as long as it supports character and comedy. One standout set piece involves a villain unleashing an army of slime-powered robots, and instead of just generic chaos, each robot is given a goofy quirk that makes the swarm feel less like code and more like a circus of personality-driven pests. What's especially clever is the way the film doesn't always go big with its effects. There are small, subtle touches too, like the glimmer in DogMan's eyes when he's about to chase a squirrel. or the quick pop of comic-style text during emotional beats, and homage to the original books that reminds viewers this story has its roots in panels and ink. Even when characters get emotional, the background visuals often shift to match the mood, with symbolic animation layered in. Hearts fluttering, teardrops stretching like rain, or flashback sequences drenched in stylized silhouettes. But none of this would matter if the visual effects didn't serve the story. Luckily, they do. They're not just there to dazzle. They amplify the emotions, sharpen the comedic timing, and give life to characters who might otherwise be too bizarre to connect with. The digital artistry becomes an extension of the characters' personalities. Lil Petey's science experiments fizzle and pop with rainbow-colored absurdity. Chief's frustration is accompanied by steam blasts and animated veins that jump off the screen. Even Petey the cat's mood swings get visualized through shifting lighting and exaggerated shadows, making his redemption arc not only felt, but literally seen. DogMan 2025 uses its CGI with a painter's precision and a prankster's glee. It knows when to push, when to pull back, and when to go completely unhinged. Instead of trying to look real, it focuses on looking right for its universe. Funny, fast, emotional, and expressive. It's a visual style that doesn't just enhance the film, it is the film, a full-throttle visual playground that makes every frame feel like an adventure. The world of DogMan 2025 is a colorful, chaotic sandbox bursting with personality, and the set design plays a huge role in making this fictional universe feel tangible, lived in, and irresistibly fun. This isn't your typical urban superhero backdrop. It's not some moody, rain-soaked Gotham or overly pristine metropolis. No, Dogman's world is a hybrid of comic book absurdity and childhood imagination, where every building, every prop, and every corner of the frame feels like it was designed with playfulness and purpose in mind. The main city, let's call it Digopolis for fun, is a place that defies straight lines and realistic proportions. Skyscrapers tilt with exaggeration, police stations look like oversized chew toys crossed with action figure headquarters, and the local science lab looks like it was assembled from a stack of pizza boxes, blinking lights, and cartoon logic. It's all bright, bold, and stylized, with no apologies for being over the top. That's the charm. It makes you feel like you've stepped inside a storybook doodled on a school notebook, rough around the edges, but bursting with energy and identity. Each location in the film tells its own visual story. Dogman's police department is filled with oddball details, a mugshot wall with scribbles and paw prints, a desk made of old comic books and dog bones, evidence lockers that seem to contain more snacks than weapons. This isn't just background dressing. It deepens our understanding of the world and the characters who inhabit it. When Dogman runs through these spaces, we get a sense that he belongs there, that this bizarre, slightly unhinged setting reflects who he is. Petey the cat's lair is a masterclass in villainous decor, but with a comic twist. It's part underground lab, part chaotic teenager's bedroom, with test tubes full of glowing goo, piles of comic books, laser pointer traps, and, of course, a litter box that glows ominously for no reason. It's sinister and silly in equal measure, and that balance perfectly captures Petey's complicated character, a genius, a menace, but also a mess. The set design turns his environment into a reflection of his duality. One moment he's plotting world domination, the next he's tripping over his own blueprints. Then there's the school, a setting central to Lil Petey's story. The production design here hits a sweet spot between playful and grounded. The halls are decorated with handmade posters, science experiments gone wrong, and murals that look like they were drawn during recess. It gives the school a real texture, the kind that doesn't feel sterile or generic but personal and full of character. Even the classroom chalkboards have clever scribbles and jokes that feel authentic to the film's tone. The streets of the city are no less important. There's a kind of organized chaos to them. Newsstands sell banana-scented comic books. Billboards have moving cartoon faces that shout slogans at passing citizens. Even the trash cans are stylized, some shaped like bones, others with mechanical jaws that chomp down dramatically when someone throws something in. It's small details like these that bring the world to life, make it immersive, and allow the viewer to get lost in the environment as much as in the action. Set pieces also evolve as the film progresses. During action scenes, the design of each environment is used creatively. When DogMan and Lil Petey are trapped in a collapsing science fair, it becomes a moving maze of melting volcano projects and sentient robots gone haywire. During the climactic rooftop battle, the location transforms with every step. Neon signs flicker in the background, the wind rips through colorful billboards, and each floor of the building tells a different story with its design. It's dynamic, not just visually but narratively. The spaces feel like they're part of the conflict, shaping how the story moves forward. The blend of physical sets and digitally enhanced environments is seamless. You never quite know where the practical ends and the digital begins, which is exactly how it should be in a film like this. Props and set pieces look exaggerated, but feel functional. There's always something to catch the eye, something unexpected to discover in the corner of the frame, a talking vending machine, a heroic statue with googly eyes, a hallway that stretches cartoonishly long in moments of panic. The film doesn't just build a world. It packs that world with jokes, clues, Easter eggs, and emotional texture. In DogMan 2025, set design isn't just about background. It's about world building, character insight, mood, tone, and comedy. The locations are playgrounds for the story to unfold, designed not just to support the action but to reflect the heart and weirdness of the characters who occupy them. Whether it's a villain's lab, a city rooftop, or a classroom filled with chaos, each location invites you to look a little closer and maybe laugh while you're at it. The dialogue in DogMan 2025 crackles with the exact kind of unfiltered, quirky energy you'd expect from a movie based on a comic book that's part superhero spoof, part heartfelt buddy story, and part chaotic classroom daydream. Every character sounds like they were yanked straight from the pages of a doodle-filled notebook and handed a microphone, with lines that feel like a blend of playground trash talk, Saturday morning cartoon punchlines, and surprisingly wise emotional zingers that sneak up on you mid-laugh. Let's start with DogMan himself, his dialogue, of course, being a mix of panting, expressive barks, and some very cleverly used reactions. But here's where the writing team gets smart. Instead of trying to force a talking hero into the mix, they make the humor arise from DogMan's actions, reactions, and how others interpret his canine behavior. The supporting characters speak about him in ways that reveal volumes. For example, when Chief yells, "Don't lick the villain," or Lil Petey says, "He's got heart, nose, and tail," that's the DogMan code. You instantly get a sense of the hero's personality without him ever needing to say a word. The real standout in terms of sharp, fast, and witty dialogue is Lil Petey. This kid genius cat never stops talking, and thank goodness for that. His lines are bursting with charm and oddball logic. He'll launch into a dramatic monologue about science and friendship, then veer off into a tangent about jelly beans or robots with sandwich heads. And somehow it all works. There's a natural rhythm to his chatter, like a kid trying to explain something too fast but with so much heart you can't help but listen. He has those rapid-fire moments of comic gold. If we reverse the polarity of the friendship ray and sprinkle it with kindness glitter, we can totally unvillainize this guy. It's bizarre, brilliant, and totally in line with the tone of the film. Petey the cat, on the other hand, delivers some of the script's most emotionally complex and dryly hilarious lines. As the villain who's constantly battling between world domination and dad life redemption, his dialogue walks a tightrope between sarcasm and sincerity. He'll say something like, "I used to want to rule the world. Now I just want 10 minutes of silence and a snack," and it somehow hits both as a joke and as a genuinely relatable moment. The script knows when to let him be ridiculous and when to let the cracks in his villainy show. His verbal sparring with Lil Petey is especially rich, equal parts banter, rivalry, and father-son therapy session wrapped in wordplay. The supporting characters each bring their own flavor. Chief speaks in classic police drama cliches turned upside down. He'll bark orders like, "Deploy the snack squad," or "This is not protocol," as chaos erupts behind him. Sarah Hadoff, the intrepid reporter, has that snappy newsroom energy with lines that double as exposition and comedy, like, "We've got science experiments rampaging downtown, and a dog-headed cop chasing them. Tuesday just got interesting." Even the random background characters get in on the fun, with blink-and-you'll-miss-it one-liners like, "That vending machine just insulted my fashion sense." The script also knows when to slow down and get serious, without losing its core tone. Emotional scenes, like Petey struggling with being a good parent, or Lil Petey expressing fears about growing up, land with surprising weight. It's not preachy or melodramatic, it's honest. The writing sneaks in real-life themes beneath the gags, often using humor to introduce vulnerability. A scene where Lil Petey simply says, "Sometimes being good is harder than being smart," feels like it belongs in a Pixar movie, and yet it fits perfectly into this chaotic comic world. And then there are the recurring jokes and running gags, clever callbacks, rhyming villains, pun-filled gadgets, Mechachubot 9000, anyone, and fourth-wall-breaking moments that let the script wink at the audience without derailing the narrative. These layers of humor make the film feel both kid-friendly and smart enough for adults to enjoy, all thanks to writing that balances silliness with sincerity. The DogMan script doesn't aim for polished Oscar-bait dialogue. It aims for voice, distinct, exaggerated, cartoonish voice, and it nails it. Every line feels like it belongs in this exaggerated world, and more importantly, every character sounds like themselves. That's no small feat when your cast includes a dog-headed cop, a reformed cat villain, and a genius kitten in a superhero cape. The writing embraces the weird, amplifies the funny, and delivers heart when you least expect it. It's as if the entire script was scribbled in the margins of a kid's homework, but that kid is a genius storyteller who knows exactly what they're doing. DogMan 2025 doesn't just dip a toe into its genre, it belly flops into it with full force, splashing superhero tropes, detective mystery vibes, slapstick comedy, and heartfelt family drama all over the place, and somehow makes that chaotic genre stew taste like something totally new. This is the kind of movie that knows what genre it's in, knows exactly what the audience expects from it, and then decides to do it all, but louder, weirder, and with a tail-wagging wink at every turn. At its heart, DogMan is a superhero story, but not the brooding, cape-in-the-rain kind. This is a world where science experiments can go rogue, a villain might be emotionally conflicted about parenting, and the hero solves problems as much with kindness as with crime fighting. It takes the core superhero setup, a genetically fused half-dog, half-man law enforcer, and runs wild with it, never getting bogged down in origin story gloom or moralistic brooding. Instead, it leans into absurdity, and that's where it really shines. Action? Absolutely. There are explosions, gadgets, chase scenes, mechs with flaming paws, and rooftop showdowns. But here's the twist. Most of the action is played with a tongue-in-cheek energy that mixes genuine thrills with comedy gold. Picture DogMan chasing a villain through a lab filled with malfunctioning jelly-powered machines, dodging toast-launching cannons and banana peels like it's an Olympic event. It's fun, fast, and visually delightful. And unlike many action-heavy films, it doesn't rely on slow-mo punches or gritty over-editing. It keeps everything brisk, clear, and cartoonishly inventive. The movie also dips into buddy cop dynamics, but with a twist. DogMan barely talks, and Lil Petey, his genius kitten sidekick, never stops talking. Their chemistry is straight out of classic mismatched duo comedies, but the dynamic is flipped in a way that constantly feels fresh. Their banter and teamwork are funny, yes, but also surprisingly sweet. The genre's usual tough love mentorship is traded for boundless affection and an almost parental bond, because DogMan, despite his instincts, never tries to be the alpha. He lets Lil Petey lead with his brain while he leads with heart. As for the comedy genre, DogMan doesn't just follow the rules, it stretches them until they yelp. Puns, gags, wordplay, cartoon logic, and fourth-wall breaks all live happily here. It's rare to find a movie that can go from a fart joke to a genuinely emotional moment in under a minute and have both land perfectly. There's a constant undercurrent of playful irreverence, as if the script knows it's being a little ridiculous and invites the audience to join in. But it's not mindless silliness, it's clever silliness. The humor is layered, visual gags for the kids, witty dialogue for adults, and narrative satire for the animation and comic book nerds. The detective and mystery elements are spoofed, sure, but they're also surprisingly effective. DogMan might not be the next Noir legend, but the movie uses classic investigative beats, clues, red herrings, a twist villain reveal, with all the dramatic flair of a Saturday morning cartoon trying to reenact CSI. There's just enough structure in the mystery plot to keep the story moving and the stakes rising, even if most evidence is discovered by accident or sniffed out in a very literal way. Where things get really interesting is the film's attempt to blend emotional drama into this genre jungle. You don't expect a story with robot butlers and brain ray helmets to pause for a moment of introspection, but DogMan does just that. It lets Petey's arc, a villain struggling with regret and parenting, add emotional weight without turning the movie into a lecture. And that's a huge part of how the genre balance works so well. For every laugh-out-loud sequence or over-the-top action set piece, there's a character beat that hits with just enough depth to resonate, especially with younger audiences. DogMan never gets stuck in genre cliché because it's too busy playing with the toy box of genre itself. It knows exactly what it's doing when it throws a dramatic orchestral swell behind a battle against a giant taco cannon, or when it uses slow motion to show a puppy learning the value of teamwork. It exaggerates genre conventions to the point of satire, but always keeps the storytelling grounded in character and heart. In a world full of copy-paste superhero flicks and formulaic family movies, DogMan manages to howl at the moon and chart its own path. It's part spoof, part love letter, and all chaos, executed with enough cleverness and energy to feel like something genuinely fresh. It doesn't reinvent the wheel. It turns the wheel into a glittering, rocket-powered hamster ball and launches it into a donut-shaped moon base. And that's exactly the kind of genre explosion DogMan fans came to see. DogMan, 2025, might wear a silly grin and a cape made of slapstick, but hiding beneath all the gags and cartoon antics is a surprisingly sharp and intentional layer of social and cultural commentary. This isn't just a movie about a half-dog cop chasing crooks and slipping on banana peels. It's a story that, whether it barks it loud or slips it in quietly, has a lot to say about modern society, authority, family, creativity, and even redemption. Let's start with one of the most noticeable layers, the satire of authority. DogMan, created from a fusion of a police officer and his canine companion, stands at the intersection of power and instinct. The way he interacts with criminals, citizens, and his fellow officers is laced with exaggeration, but it opens up space to question how law enforcement is portrayed in media. DogMan doesn't follow protocol. He doesn't rely on force. He's often clumsy and improvisational, but it's his sincerity and moral compass that guide him. In an era where policing is under deep public scrutiny, this film quietly reimagines what a hero cop can look like: empathetic, flawed, nonviolent, and even goofy. It flips the expectation on its head and encourages kids and adults to rethink the meaning of justice without ever turning into a lecture. Then there's the dynamic between Petey, the villainous cat with a complicated past, and his son Lil, Petey. This storyline dives into intergenerational trauma and the challenge of breaking cycles. Petey's struggle isn't just about stealing the latest superweapon or zapping his enemies. It's about trying to be a better parent than he knows how to be. It reflects the real-world difficulty of changing for the sake of the next generation, and how emotional baggage and guilt don't just disappear because you want to do better. The film cleverly weaves this message into its chaotic plot, offering kids a look at redemption, forgiveness, and the idea that even villains have a chance to grow, not through punishment, but through love and support. DogMan also touches on the power of creativity and free expression. Lil, Petey's love for comics and his constant inventiveness mirror a child's need to create and explore without boundaries. This becomes a subtle commentary on how traditional education systems or parental expectations can stifle imagination. The movie celebrates drawing, storytelling, building weird gadgets, and coloring outside the lines, not just as fun activities, but as essential tools for personal growth and problem-solving. It's a quiet rebellion against conformity, packed inside a glitter cannon of visual flair and chaotic fun. Even the villains are laced with cultural critiques. The big bads in DogMan tend to be exaggerated versions of control freaks, robots, scientists, bureaucrats who want to suppress emotion, creativity, or individuality. They symbolize the pressure to be perfect, logical, emotionless, or standardized. And DogMan, who sniffs everything, drools on paperwork, and operates purely on instinct and heart, is their direct counterpoint. He represents what it means to embrace imperfection in a world that constantly demands order. On a more specific level, the film's approach to identity is also subtly profound. DogMan, being a literal hybrid, is never fully one thing. He isn't just a man. He isn't just a dog. And yet he's whole. He's accepted. Celebrated. That's a quiet, powerful nod to anyone who feels like they don't fit into tidy boxes, whether because of race, background, neurodiversity, or personal quirks. The story never makes a big deal of it, but in showing DogMan thrive without changing who he is, the film sends a message that it's okay to exist in the in-between. And let's not forget how the film handles fame and media. There are moments in the story where DogMan's antics go viral in universe, turning him into a meme or a media sensation. This feels like a funhouse mirror held up to the modern obsession with instant fame, clout chasing, and how public perception shapes identity. The movie never loses its playful tone, but it invites the audience to consider how easily the world turns real heroes into punchlines and vice versa. Importantly, none of these themes feel shoehorned in. They're part of the world, part of the characters, part of the chaos. They're wrapped in jokes and action scenes, but they linger. You might be laughing at a scene where a talking toilet tries to take over the city, but underneath that joke is a subtle nudge about over-engineering and dependency on tech. You might giggle when DogMan tries to comfort a crying robot kitten, but in that moment is a deep truth about compassion and emotional intelligence. DogMan 2025 is sneaky smart. It's a sugar-coated satire, a funhouse mirror that distorts just enough to make the truth more visible. It's a movie that entertains kids on the surface and plants seeds of thought beneath it all, encouraging empathy, creativity, critical thinking, and a reimagining of what makes a person, or a dog, a hero. DogMan 2025 doesn't just sit on the screen and wag its tail. It leaps off it, chases its own tail for a minute, does a backflip, then invites the audience to join in. This film doesn't ask for passive viewers. It grabs you by the hand or paw and says, let's go on a ride. Whether you're a longtime fan of D.A.V. Pilkey's zany graphic novels or Walking in Blind, DogMan knows exactly how to spark reactions, both loud and quiet. And it does so with the energy of a Saturday morning cartoon powered by a double shot of espresso. First off, this movie is a laugh factory. The humor is relentless and layered, slapstick for the kids, meta jokes for the teens, and absurd, self-aware comedy for the adults who thought they were just tagging along. There's a kind of kinetic unpredictability to the comedy. One moment you're watching DogMan fumble with his police gear like a clumsy toddler, and the next you're in the middle of a full-blown parody of superhero tropes. The jokes are fast, weird, and confident, like they know they're funny and dare you not to laugh. And laugh the audience does, often out loud and frequently at the kind of wild, blinky-you-miss-it visual gags that demand repeat viewings just to catch everything. But it's not just about laughter. DogMan also taps into deeper emotional veins, especially through the father-son dynamic between Petey and Lil, Petey. These moments land hard, not because the film suddenly becomes quiet or sad, but because it's been building emotional connection all along without flashing neon signs about it. When Petey, in a rare moment of vulnerability, admits he doesn't know how to be a good dad, you can feel the shift in the room. It's surprisingly raw. That's where DogMan surprises its audience. It brings real emotional weight into the chaos, and it does it in a way that feels earned, never manipulative. Kids may not know how to describe what they're feeling, but they feel it. Adults get hit right in the heart, and possibly in the tear ducts. There are scenes of action that feel like theme park rides, over-the-top chases, robot invasions, ridiculous showdowns that explode with color and motion. But even in these, there's a clear sense of cause and effect. You're never just watching pixels fly. You're invested because these characters matter. The stakes are emotionally resonant, even if they're being played out in a world where toilets come to life and time travel might be triggered by a peanut butter sandwich. That blend of surreal logic and sincere heart is what makes the engagement feel so complete. It isn't about realism. It's about emotional truth wrapped in absolute lunacy. The film also invites discussion, not the kind that unfolds in film school classrooms, but the kind that bubbles up in car rides home or during recess the next day. Who is funnier, DogMan or ADHD? Should Petey get a redemption arc? Did Lil Petey's comic inside the movie actually foreshadow the ending? These are the kinds of questions that fire up young imaginations and make kids want to revisit the story, draw their own comics, or rewatch their favorite scenes until they know every line by heart. Parents, teachers, and older fans may find themselves drawn into a different kind of reflection. There's commentary here on how society treats misfits, how creative expression is undervalued, how parenting is as much about unlearning as it is about teaching. These deeper ideas don't hit you over the head, but they echo. They linger. And for some, that echo leads to the kind of emotional investment that stretches far beyond the credits. DogMan 2025 understands the spectrum of audience engagement. It's not just about having one emotional beat or one big twist. It delivers excitement, silliness, sadness, triumph, and a surprising sense of relatability, even when a dog-headed cop is dancing in slow motion to a musical number about friendship. It's designed to be watched again, talked about, argued over, and quoted. And it's the kind of film that doesn't just land with one audience. It multiplies its reach every time a kid replays it, every time a family watches it together, and every time someone picks up the source material just to see what else this world has to offer. DogMan doesn't just win the audience. It recruits them. Into laughter, into reflection, into connection. Whether you're barking with joy, tearing up quietly, or clapping during the weirdest victory dance ever animated, this film makes sure you feel something real through every ridiculous, brilliant second. DogMan 2025 may look like it belongs to the wacky kid flick crowd, but once you step into its hyper-animated, emotionally charged universe, you realize it's barking up a very different tree. If you're thinking of lumping it in with the likes of The Secret Life of Pets, Paw Patrol, The Mighty Movie, or even the Captain Underpants adaptation, also born from D.A.V. Pilkey's mind, you're only scratching the surface. Yes, it's funny. Yes, it's wild. But DogMan isn't just another cute animal on patrol. It's the punk rock, crayon-colored cousin that blows raspberries at narrative norms and then surprises you with a heartfelt monologue about forgiveness. Let's talk genre first. Most animated films centered around anthropomorphic heroes tend to follow a tried-and-true pattern. Cute character, accidental heroism, big villain, moral lesson, dance party. DogMan acknowledges that formula, chews it up like a tennis ball, and spits it out into something fresher. Unlike Paw Patrol, which is polished, orderly, and squeaky clean, DogMan revels in messy energy. There's chaos in the storytelling, as if the movie itself was drawn by a hyper kid during recess. The structure doesn't just bend, it squirms. Flashbacks, comic panels, mini-comics within a movie, story interruptions, and meta-narration all collide in a format that feels more like a living sketchbook than a traditional movie. Now compare it to Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, which comes from the same literary DNA. Both films tap into that anarchic childlike humor and both break the fourth wall like it's made of tissue paper. But DogMan goes even more emotionally bold. Where Captain Underpants focused on friendship and imagination, DogMan dives deeper into themes like identity, redemption, and family trauma, without losing its sense of absurdity. The balance is tighter, the stakes feel more personal, and the heart beats louder beneath the chaos. The movie doesn't just want you to laugh, it wants you to feel, to think, and maybe, just maybe, to hug your dad. As for animation style, it avoids the sleek, hyper-polished look of Pixar or Illumination films. Think less Encanto, more The Mitchells versus the Machines. DogMan thrives on a deliberately scrappy aesthetic, full of bold outlines, kinetic edits, and visual gags that race across the screen like a sugar-rushed hamster. The animation feels like it was built from inside a child's notebook, which gives it more identity than most studio-polished CGI giants. That rawness is part of the charm. You're not watching perfection. You're watching creativity in overdrive. Then there's the comparison to other family-friendly superhero parodies like Megamind or the Lego Batman movie. While those films subvert superhero cliches through satire and clever writing, DogMan does it by exploding genre expectations entirely. Its hero isn't slick or brooding or competent in any traditional sense. DogMan is a literal dog-headed cop who can't speak, messes up more often than not, and somehow still wins the day through loyalty and heart. That alone makes it stand out. It takes the genre's usual power fantasy and reworks it into a story about vulnerability and emotional growth. You could also compare DogMan to other odd couple animated partnerships like Zootopia, but again, DogMan plays it differently. The relationship between Petey and Lil Petey isn't just buddy cop banter, it's therapy in cartoon form. You have a villain slowly learning how to be a parent, a clone child trying to teach his father morality, and a whole subplot that's more about emotional healing than solving crimes. That's a lot deeper than what you'd find in your average animated romp. Finally, when you stack it against the broader animation landscape of 2025, DogMan doesn't just feel different, it feels necessary. While many films are trending towards sleek visual showcases and multiverse plots, DogMan is stubbornly, gleefully chaotic in both visuals and narrative. It reminds you of what childhood actually feels like. Not polished, not always logical, but filled with heart, humor, mistakes, wild imagination, and sudden, surprising wisdom. In short, DogMan stands out by not trying to fit in. It howls instead of harmonizes. And in doing so, it gives us something genuinely unique, a film that understands its genre, respects its audience, and then joyfully trashes the rulebook in favor of something more honest, more heartfelt, and way more fun. DogMan might look like it's all poop jokes, comic book chaos, and dog-headed law enforcement shenanigans, but buried beneath the zany energy and kid-friendly aesthetic is a surprisingly rich layer of symbolism and metaphor that gives the film emotional weight and unexpected depth. You're not just watching a superhero parody, you're watching a coded story about healing, trauma, identity, and the messiness of growing up. Let's start with the most obvious metaphor, DogMan himself. He's literally a Frankenstein creation, stitched together from a dog's head and a human body. But metaphorically, he represents fractured identity, the way kids and even adults often feel pulled between instincts and responsibilities, emotions and expectations. DogMan isn't articulate. He barks, slobbers, and causes accidental chaos. But he's also loyal, brave, and deeply empathetic. His dual nature becomes a metaphor for the inner conflict between raw emotion and social decorum. He's both the chaos and the conscience. The very fact that he can't speak, but is still understood says something profound about the power of nonverbal communication and emotional intelligence. Then there's Petey the cat, a villain with a backstory soaked in abandonment and pain. Petey starts off as your standard evil genius, but his arc slowly becomes a mirror of broken cycles and inherited trauma. He's not just bad, he's wounded. His journey from villain to reluctant father is steeped in metaphor. His clone son, Lil Petey, isn't just comic relief, he's a living metaphor for second chances. He's innocence reborn from darkness, an opportunity for redemption that Petey never had as a child. In every scene where Petey hesitates before lashing out, where he reluctantly hugs his son or defends him, we're seeing a symbolic battle between the scars of the past and the fragile hope of healing. The recurring motif of drawing, storytelling, and childlike illustration is more than a visual gimmick. It's a metaphor for control and self-expression. The characters literally write and draw their way out of problems, and their worlds are shaped by imagination. Every sketch, fliporama, and mini-comic functions as a meta-symbol. Creativity isn't just play, it's survival. For kids dealing with emotions they can't name or traumas they can't explain, art becomes a language, and DogMan wields that language like a superpower. The film structure, which breaks from cinematic norms and mimics a child's chaotic drawing session, underlines this. It's a visual metaphor for how kids process the world, fragmented, nonlinear, but emotionally truthful. Even the villainy in DogMan is loaded with symbolic flourishes. Take the villains like Piggy or the mechanical menaces. They're often exaggerated, absurd, and driven by a hunger for control. But in contrast to the emotional fluidity of the heroes, the villains represent rigidity, power obsession, and emotional detachment. It's no accident that the antagonists often try to reprogram, erase, or contain others. They are metaphors for systems, school, authority, even trauma that try to suppress individuality and emotional vulnerability. There's also symbolism in the recurring theme of mistakes and forgiveness. Characters screw up, often, but the film constantly returns to the idea that messing up doesn't make you bad, it makes you human or part dog. Every time Lil Petey says, "It's okay, Papa," or offers kindness in the face of rejection, it's a symbolic olive branch. That small phrase becomes a mantra of grace, a way to rewrite old scripts of shame and guilt. It's a subtle but powerful metaphor for emotional resilience and growth. Visually, the color palette of DogMan shifts subtly to emphasize tone and growth. Brighter, more saturated colors flood scenes of joy and connection, while darker hues dominate moments of inner turmoil or separation. Even this plays as symbolic, color as emotional resonance, creating a subconscious rhythm that mirrors the character arcs. The police force, a backdrop of the DogMan universe, also holds symbolic weight. It becomes a parody of law and order, but also a commentary on how institutions can fail or succeed depending on the humanity within them. DogMan, the most chaotic and empathetic officer, is ironically the one who gets things done, not through protocol, but through connection. That juxtaposition becomes a metaphor for how systems can't replace emotional intelligence. In the end, DogMan may wear its silliness like a badge of honor, but beneath that goofy grin and fliporama flair lies a story filled with metaphors that speak directly to kids, and to the kids still hiding inside every adult. It's a movie that tells you healing is messy, love can be clumsy, and being a good guy isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, wagging your tail, and trying again. DogMan 2025 isn't just a film adaptation. It's a full-throttle leap from the pages of one of the most wildly popular graphic novel series of the last decade. D.A.V. Pilkey's DogMan books, which spun off from the universe of Captain Underpants, have become a phenomenon in children's literature. They've captivated millions not just with humor and hijinks, but with sincere emotional arcs, themes of redemption, and a charming DIY comic style. So, when the 2025 film hit the big screen, it wasn't entering a blank slate. It was stepping into a world already rich with expectation, lore, and a deeply invested fanbase. In terms of franchise expansion, this movie is a milestone. It doesn't just rehash the first book's events. It synthesizes multiple volumes and distills their spirit into a single coherent arc. Fans of the source material will recognize scenes and gags straight from DogMan Unleashed, A Tale of Two Kitties, and Brawl of the Wild, but they're interwoven into a single narrative that feels both faithful and fresh. The adaptation pulls from the broader mythology of the series, Petey's origins, Lil Petey's growth, DogMan's clumsy heroics, and layers them into a film that plays like a greatest hits album with a narrative through line. That's no easy feat for a franchise that thrives on episodic chaos, mini-comics, and fourth-wall-breaking gags. What's fascinating is how the film doesn't just nod to previous books, it actually deepens them. Take the relationship between Petey and Lil Petey. In the books, this father-son dynamic unfolds gradually, volume by volume. The movie compresses that growth but retains its emotional weight, making it the heart of the story. The film becomes a bridge between younger audiences who are meeting DogMan for the first time and longtime fans who already know how far these characters have come. It's a clever act of franchise consolidation, merging fan service with a new entry point. Even visually, the film honors its franchise roots. The animation replicates the hand-drawn, intentionally messy aesthetic of the books. It doesn't go full-polished Pixar. It embraces the wiggly lines, goofy expressions, and crayon box color palette that define Pilkey's art. The fliporamas get translated into kinetic action montages, keeping that unique page-turning momentum alive. It's a visual translation that respects the franchise's creative DNA. And if we zoom out a little, DogMan is also a fascinating chapter in the larger Pilkeyverse. The books themselves are meta-narratives, comics drawn by George and Harold, the stars of Captain Underpants. That means DogMan isn't just a character. He's a story within a story. The film nods to this meta-framework with clever cutaways, scribbled notebook segments, and even hints that this whole tale is the product of kids making sense of the world through art. It's not just a franchise entry, it's a layer in a multi-layered universe. Culturally, DogMan, 2025, arrives at a time when children's franchises are increasingly being adapted with respect, scale, and surprising emotional complexity. Think Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, or the Lego Movie, films that take playful material and elevate it without sanding off the charm. DogMan fits squarely into that lineage. But unlike those, it carries the unique baggage of being written by kids, for kids, at least in universe. That gives it a distinct flavor in the franchise landscape. It's not adult creators talking down to children, it's creators channeling childhood itself, celebrating imagination as the core of the universe. In short, DogMan 2025 doesn't just contribute to the franchise, it galvanizes it. It draws together disparate storylines, brings emotional arcs to the foreground, and transforms a beloved graphic novel into a cinematic language all its own. It plays like a fan letter to the books, a gateway for newcomers, and a love letter to the power of silly drawings that hide profound truths. It's not just a cartoon movie, it's a cornerstone of a universe that's only beginning to howl louder. DogMan 2025 is the kind of animated feature where every dollar looks like it made it onto the screen, and then some. With a production budget reportedly in the ballpark of $65-70 million, the film didn't venture into the mega-budget territory of major Pixar or DreamWorks titles, but it never needed to. What it had instead was a smart, focused spend, stylized animation, expressive voice talent, a killer marketing rollout, and a built-in fanbase of millions of young readers. In short, it didn't need to reinvent the wheel. It just needed to draw it with goofy eyes and a wagging tail, and that's exactly what it did. The production quality is a testament to how budget can be optimized for style over realism. This wasn't aiming for hyper-detailed textures or photorealistic lighting. It embraced the squiggly, crayon-like aesthetic of D.A.V. Pilkey's books and brought that to life with kinetic motion and bold colors. It's the kind of animation that feels playful, energetic, and true to the source without requiring hundreds of millions in rendering time. So while some big-budget animated films flex their muscle with elaborate hair physics or water simulation, DogMan flexed by staying weird, scrappy, and emotionally sincere, and audiences loved it for that. On the box office front, DogMan was never expected to be a billion-dollar juggernaut, but it more than earned its stripes. Opening weekend brought in a strong $35-40 million domestically, easily outpacing projections thanks to a perfect storm of nostalgia-fueled parents, young readers eager to see their hero on the big screen, and clever marketing that included everything from classroom kits to viral TikToks with kids dressed like Lil Petey. The film's worldwide gross quickly crossed the $200 million mark within weeks, making it one of the surprise family film successes of the year. Not just profitable, but highly lucrative in terms of return on investment. A big chunk of that success was fueled by savvy marketing. The campaign didn't just target kids, it targeted parents, librarians, educators, and influencers. It leaned heavily on the book series status as a school library staple, launching early access screenings for teachers and author tie-ins that reignited book sales alongside movie ticket sales. There were activity books, themed lunchboxes, plushies, and even interactive dog-themed movie premieres in major cities. It wasn't just a movie launch, it was a full-scale DogMan takeover. And the reception? Glowing. Word of mouth was a massive factor. Parents appreciated the emotional depth and moral messages. Kids loved the humor, the chaos, and the idea of a half-dog, half-man hero saving the day in wildly unpredictable ways. Repeat viewings were common, especially in families with young kids who couldn't get enough of the goofy slapstick and heartfelt moments. That kind of organic buzz kept the movie in theaters longer than anticipated, and it later translated into strong streaming numbers and home video sales. From a studio perspective, DogMan became a textbook example of how to take a modestly budgeted animated film with a built-in fanbase and turn it into a cultural event. It avoided the pitfalls of overproduction and instead focused on tone, heart, and audience connection. Every dollar counted, every joke landed, and every tail wag paid off at the box office. Whether you're looking at it as an adaptation, a franchise launchpad, or just a financial case study, DogMan didn't just roll over. It stood tall and barked all the way to the bank. DogMan, 2025, stormed into theaters with the same gleeful energy as its comic book counterpart, tearing across a page with crayon-colored chaos. If you're looking for the most immersive way to experience the film, the kind that turns giggles into belly laughs and brings every animated explosion of silliness to full-volume life, then the theatrical route is hands down the top-tier option. It's built for that big-screen chaos. Kids bouncing in their seats, parents chuckling at the jokes flying just above their kids' heads, and the sheer joy of hearing the whole room erupt when DogMan chases a mail truck across the city skyline. That's something you can't replicate at home. Now, if the theatrical run in your area has ended, or if you're more of a couch and popcorn connoisseur, DogMan's swift move to digital and streaming platforms makes it an easy watch from the comfort of your living room. The film found a second life on premium video-on-demand services, where families could rent or purchase it for home viewing. This format works particularly well because DogMan is the kind of film that invites repeat viewings. The jokes are fast, the animation is packed with visual gags, and there's always something new to catch on a second or third watch. It's a loop-friendly experience, perfect for kids who immediately declare, "Play it again." As expected with a major family-friendly title backed by a beloved book series, it didn't take long before the film barked its way onto major streaming platforms. Once it landed, it became one of the most-watched family titles within days. It's optimized for family nights, weekend marathons, or even background viewing that gradually hypnotizes the whole household with its colorful, fast-paced charm. Streaming also means subtitles and multiple language options, which helped it travel beyond borders and make DogMan a global hero. For the ultimate experience, the ideal setup is a big screen, surround sound, or at least a volume level that lets Lil Petey's wild soundboard moments ring out, and a crowd, whether that's a packed theater, a living room full of siblings, or a classroom end-of-week treat. This isn't a quiet, moody film. It's loud, silly, heartfelt, and chaotic in the best possible way. Whether you catch it on the big screen or stream it in a fort made of couch cushions, the movie's energy is infectious. And if you're a fan of the books, watching it in a shared space becomes even more special. Every character reveal and plot twist feels like a group celebration. So, whether you're going full cinema mode with bucket-sized popcorn or curling up at home for a rewatch marathon, DogMan is available and ready to roll. It's been designed for maximum accessibility and maximum joy, because every kid deserves to see their favorite crime-fighting half-dog, half-human hero save the day, no matter where they are.